Ready? Okay. Morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well today. It's kind of a beautiful day. I want to lead into my reflection by saying a word about our saints today, Pontian and Hippolytus. Sardinia is a beautiful island, 290 miles by ferry from Rome. 1 million people go there every year for vacation. It has wonderful beaches and hiking trails. But that wasn't the case in the year 235. In 235, Sardinia was known as the Island of Death. And that's where the emperor would send criminals and people he wanted to get rid of, because no one ever came back from Sardinia. Well, in 235, Pontian was the Pope, and the emperor sentenced him to the island of Sardinia. And he knew that he would never come back alive, so he did a wonderful thing. He abdicated the papacy so that they could elect another pope. And so he's the first pope to abdicate the papacy. And Hippolytus was a priest in Rome who argued with the pope all the time because he thought the pope was too easy on penitence. And not only did he argue with the pope, he declared himself the pope. He got a group of people in Rome and they elected him pope. And so this happened 39 times in the history of our church. And Hippolytus is the very first, what we call anti-pope. Anyway, they were both sent to Sardinia to die. And in their remaining months or years, whatever, they forgave one another, they were reconciled, and they're buried together in a church in Rome. And so what we don't do is remember their conflicts, we remember their unity. And that kind of leads me into my reflection today. Don Shula is the winningest coach in the NFL. He won 347 games. And he was interviewed before he died about what was his greatest victory. And of course, he mentioned the undefeated season. But he said he remembered the losses more than he remembered the victories. He remembered every single detail of the losses. And isn't that so typical of us, that we remember the bad things in our life and not the good things? It's almost in our DNA. Someone said that's original sin, that this negativity is built into our DNA so that we could have 10 compliments in one day and one criticism, and that's all we would remember is the criticism. So we remember the bad things in our past. And I'd like to tell you about one in my own life, and perhaps you've had these kind of experiences too. When I graduated from high school, the bishop sent me and Father Marcucci and Father Ed to the seminary in Indiana on a lake, Lake Wawasee, Indiana, 35 miles from Notre Dame. In the summertime, it was a vacation spot, but in the winter, it was desolate. The lake would freeze over, it would be cold, and we were the only ones there. Well, when I left to go to that seminary, just out of high school, the first time I was ever away from home in my life, my father was sick. And that was unusual for him because he never was sick. So I left in early September, and I didn't get home till Christmas. In the meantime, my mother informed me that my father had lung cancer. He worked in the basement of Kaufman's department store with all the asbestos, and he got lung cancer. He was only 50. And not only that, but the cancer had spread to his brain. And so when I came home for Christmas, it was the first time I saw him. And I was so shocked because he couldn't walk. He had to be carried upstairs and downstairs. They didn't have the chemotherapy and the pain medication that they have today. And he was sitting in this chair, just a shell of what I remembered. And I saw him for the first time. And I did an unbelievable thing. I laughed. I don't know why I laughed. It wasn't funny. It's just that I was so shocked and I didn't know what to do. And my first reaction was to laugh. And I remember the look on his face, because I was kind of his favorite, because I was the only boy in the family that played any sports, and he was really an avid sportsman. So he really kind of thought of me as special. And I just remember that look in his eye, that look of bewilderment, that look of disappointment, and I didn't know what else to do, so I just went out of the room. Well, I remember that to this day, as if it happened yesterday. And maybe you have that kind of thing in your own life as well. I mean, something that you're different now, you're more mature now, you're in a different world now, but you remember something in the past that you did, and you just never forget it. It leaves such a strong mark on your heart and on your soul. Dean Smith, who was the great coach of North Carolina, said, "What do we do with mistakes? What do we do with sins? We do 4 things," he said. We recognize them, we admit them, we learn from them, and we forget them. Easier said than done, but Pope Francis said that God never tires of forgiving. We just tire of asking for his mercy. So I hope you will take the advice of Alexander Pope, to err is human, to forgive is divine, and forgive yourself and to let it go, so that we can look at our past and recognize, admit, learn, and forget. Have a good day, everyone.